Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to run you through how to thread your sewing machine. As in my previous YouTube video, we looked at Bernina B330, so I'm going to use that same machine today to teach you how to thread your sewing machine. Most sewing machines are threaded in a similar way to each other. They pass through a series of thread guides, take-up levers, and then through a needle. The bottom part of the machine usually always uses a bobbin and a bobbin case, and both have to be threaded correctly in order for the machine to work properly. So today we're going to show you how to thread the top part of the machine and the bottom part of the machine, following a series of step-by-step instructions. I find that when I've threaded my machine correctly, if I look at my machine, my thread in the top part of my machine should be making a capital letter N. With all the machines that I have in my classroom, they should all make a capital letter N. The B330 machine, it's a bit harder to tell if it's making a capital letter N because parts of the threading are hidden by a safety guard on the front of the machine. But for the most part, you should be able to tell if it's threaded correctly. So I'm going to get right into this video today and take you through those step-by-step instructions on how to thread your sewing machine. All right, let's get right into it. Here we are back with my trusty Bernina 330 sewing machine. All you need to do to get started is you need to have selected a reel of thread or a spool of thread, and you also need to have a bobbin with thread on for this activity. I will later show you how to thread a bobbin so that you can get more thread on top of this because these run out. First of all, you will need to locate on your machine where your spool holder is. On my machine, it is up here. I am going to use this spool holder and not the secondary spool holder that I have on my machine. It just allows for the spool to sit nicely on there and not pop off when I'm sewing. So go ahead and place your spool of thread onto your spool holder, just like so. You're now going to take your thread and hook it around the first thread guide, just like so. Coming from the side angle, we're just going to go underneath the hook like this and bring it towards the front of the machine. So after you've come around the thread guide here, you're going to come down the front of your machine. This machine is really clever because it actually has little arrows on the machine to show you the way in which the thread needs to pass through the series of thread guides. The second thread guide that you need to go around is one that's at the bottom. Okay, so we're going under. The third step that you need to do is to take it up and over the take up lever. Now it can be quite tricky to see it from this point of view because you've got this little safety guard here at the front of the machine. So I'm pretty good at it, but generally I will try to encourage my students just to turn their machine to the side a little bit so that they can see down into this gap in here. Okay, so at the moment I can't see the take-up lever. The reason why I can't see the take-up lever is because it is partway through doing a stitch. So I need to move the hand wheel in the direction towards me, so anti-clockwise, in order for my needle to move and finish completing the stitch. It's not actually stitching, but the needle is in a position where it would likely do a stitch if you were still sewing. Okay, so by turning my hand wheel towards me, I can get my take-up lever in a position where I can more easily see it. I can see my take-up lever here. So we've come down the machine and we've gone under this little thread guide that you can see here. We're taking the thread and we're passing it over the take-up lever from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. Okay, it also shows you on the arrow at the top which way to pass it around. So we're going to go onto the right-hand side of the take-up lever, bring the thread all the way to the back, pull it to the left, and it will slide down into the hole. So we're coming down, we're going under that thread guide, then up, over, all down. So I'm just going to quickly do that a little bit more speed up for you so that you can see that process a little bit more quickly. So popping the thread on the spool holder, taking your thread, find it easier to take it in between my two fingers to hook it around the first thread guide. Taking the thread down through the channel to go between the tension disc located just here. We're going to go under the second thread guide, and then we're going to go up from the right hand side to the left hand side of our take up lever, making sure the thread slides all the way down into where the little hole is here on the take up lever. We are then coming down around the hook at the top of the needle bar, which is another thread guide. There's another one right at the top of the needle, and then that is how you thread the top part of your machine. Okay, the very last step that you need to do is to thread your needle. This is when you need a really good pair of sharp scissors, and you definitely need to trim your thread most of the time when you're going to thread your sewing machine. So I simply take a pair of scissors and chop my thread at the end. This is to get a really crisp thread end. So I'll see if I can zoom you in. So at this point, we're going to take our thread through the needle. It is a bit tricky to see it in this one because my phone doesn't like to focus too much on too much of a zoom. We're going to try and take it through the little end of the needle. Okay, so at the end of the needle, you can see that there is a little tiny hole right here. Okay, so you're going to pass your thread through the hole of the needle. At the minute, because my presser foot is raised, like I can get my finger underneath the presser foot here, which means it is in a raised position. That is the hardest position that I find to be able to thread my needle. Okay, so what you would need to do is to lower your presser foot by getting the lever at the back of your machine and lowering the presser foot down. This therefore allows you a little bit more room with your fingers to get your thread into the hole. Okay, so take the end of your thread that you've pre-cut, and you are simply going to get it through the hole on your needle. I'm doing this from pretty far away, so it makes for a bit of a tricky experience because I'm trying not to get into the shot of the camera. So simply pulling it through. Now at this point, see how there is a big loop happening here of thread? I don't want that to wrap around my needle. So I like to hold it so that it comes down nice and straight in front of my needle. Okay, so you can see that that's now threaded through the hole of the needle, and it's coming from the front to the back. So there's a little hole in the needle, you're threading it from the front to the back. Okay, I'll do that one more time. Okay, so from the front of the machine to the back through the hole on the needle. Okay, holding the string, the thread out the way, so to make sure that it comes nicely down the front of my needle. And that is the front of your machine threaded. The next part of threading your sewing machine is to thread the bobbin. Now the bobbin is located in the bottom of your machine behind this little door. Sometimes in your machines they can be located underneath the presser foot plate. and they usually are just like got a plastic little cover on them, but this one here is just located underneath inside my machine. So we need to be able to take out our bobbin case to be able to thread our bobbin. In order to do that, there is a little lever on the on your bobbin case that you can pull on. Okay, so we're now nice and close to where our bobbin case lives. So as you can see here on the front of the bobbin case, there is a lever that you can pull on to take that bobbin case out of your sewing machine. So to do that is just simply grab hold of the lever with your finger and your thumb, and you can pull your bobbin case out. So here we are up close with the bobbin case. You can see on the bobbin case there is your lever at the front that has this little bar here with a hole in it. If we move it to the side and inspect around the outside edge, you can see that there is a metal plate that comes along one of the sides. It's got a little screw here, and then it's got a little hole in here. It also has a little slit just here that's cut out of the metal. All of these parts are a key part of when you are threading your bobbin case, okay? So what I like to do is I like to get my students to pop their bobbin here, okay, with the thread coming in a clockwise direction. So clockwise around like this. So like a clock, tick, 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 around like this. I like them to pop it into their hand like this, okay? With the thread going in that clockwise position, I'd like to get them to take the bobbin case and to pop the bobbin case on top of the bobbin, like so. Flip it over, okay? Now your bobbin is in your bobbin case. Same sort of concept applies with the bobbin case as it does with the top of the machine, where it comes down and passes through some tension discs. The top thread needs tension, so it passes through those tension discs. The bobbin thread needs tension as well, so it has to pass through a component of the bobbin case that gives it tension. Now on your bobbin case, this little metal plate here is the plate that gives the thread from the bobbin tension. So we have to be able to thread it around that in some way. So I like to get my students to first get their finger and their thumb and squeeze the bobbin and the bobbin case together like so, okay? Then I like to get them to take their thread and find the little slit, okay, in the bobbin case, okay? So that little slit that we talked about, find that little slit with the thread, hold the thread so that it's pretty much trying to go around the bobbin case, and pull the thread so that it slides down into that little hole there. Now that is all you need to do to thread your bobbin case. I will show you one more time. So to take your bobbin out of your bobbin case, just tip it upside down and pull the thread out. Pop your bobbin in your hand, making sure the thread is going in a clockwise direction. Place your bobbin case on top of your bobbin. Flip over both the bobbin and the bobbin case together, okay? Take the thread from your bobbin and find the little cut in the bobbin case with your thread. Squeeze between your finger and your thumb the bobbin case and the bobbin so that the bobbin isn't moving around in the bobbin case. Pass the thread down the little cut, hold it parallel to the bobbin case, slide it into the hole. To prevent the bobbin from falling out of the bobbin case when we tip it upside down, because we need to move the bobbin case to obviously to put it back into the machine, we need to kind of lock the bobbin in place. We do that by pulling on that lever that we use to pull the bobbin case out of the machine. So pull on that lever, and if I tip this upside down now, it's a bit hard when I'm trying to do it behind the camera, it shouldn't fall out. Okay, so pull on that lever and that locks your bobbin case in there. Okay, right, in this step here, it is quite It can be quite a tricky step actually. It's inserting the bobbin case back into the sewing machine. On your bobbin case you can see that there's this little shaft here with this hole in it. Now I like to refer to that as my chimney. So when you think about a chimney and the smoke has to come out to the top of the chimney. So we always want this part here to be facing the sky so that the chimney has the space where it needs to come out. So have this part facing the sky while pulling on your lever to lock your bobbin into place, and then you are taking it to your machine and inserting it into your machine. At this point of time, the bobbin case inside the machine is really wiggly. Now currently the shaft that we were talking about before is not facing the sky, it's kind of facing off. There is a little part inside here, inside where the bobbin case lives. You can see that in the bottom of the machine that there is a little space to the top. There's a little cutout. I don't know if you can see it, kind of up in this area here. There is a little place cut out. Now that little spot that's cut out is where the little shaft needs to align with, and then you need to press the bobbin into place. So we're going to align the shaft bit with the little cut out bit and push until you hear it click. So currently that there is now locked nicely into space. See how it's not wiggling around anymore? So that means that our bobbin case is inserted correctly into our sewing machine. At the moment you can see that we have the thread coming out of the needle on the top of the machine, and we have the thread that's coming from the bobbin and the bobbin case out the bottom of our machine. We need to get the thread that's coming from the bottom from the bobbin up through the pressure plate, the pressure foot plate here. There's a little hole in the middle. We need to bring it up through that hole. You might ask how, and looking at it like this it would seem quite difficult, but actually it's a really fun part of threading the sewing machine, and I like to refer to it as going fishing. So we want to be able to fish up a fish from the ocean. So think about the bobbin case and the bobbin as our ocean. Think about the needle at the top and the thread as your fishing rod and your reel that you have on your fishing rod. So we want to be able to hook up a fish using this part here. What you are going to do is you can never catch a fish without holding on to the rod and the reel. So we're going to hold on to the reel. We are then going to take our right hand and turn the hand wheel. So on the right hand side of your machine, you are going to take your hands and turn the hand wheel towards you while you are holding your fishing rod in your left hand. So we are going to turn it towards us so that the fishing rod goes down into the machine and it comes back up. Once it has made one stitch, or it's gone through the machine and up again, you can tell if it's done that by looking at the take-up lever to make sure it's near the top, it's not halfway down. Or you can look underneath in where the bobbin case is to see if the pink thread has come round the front of the bobbin and hooked up your fish. Okay, I will show you that in a closer detail in a second. Now the last step that you need to do is to pull that fish up onto your boat. So you're holding your fishing rod with your reel, you're simply going to pull on that reel and you'll see that there is a loop that has come up. Okay, it's a bit hard to see it this far away. So you can see here that there is a loop that has come up. That is your bobbin thread or your fish. So you're going to take your finger and your thumb and you're going to pull that fish completely out of the ocean until you've got these two nice long threads, like so. I'm going to zoom you in and show you that process again so you can see what's happening down in the bobbin case. Okay, so we're now really up close with the bobbin case and the bottom part of the machine. I'm going to hold my fishing rod, fishing line with my left hand. Okay, so I've got my fishing line in my left hand. I'm going to take my right hand and turn the hand wheel towards me in an anti-clockwise position. So turning the hand wheel towards me, as you can see, and if you watch underneath where your bobbin case is, you can see that the needle is going to come down into the machine. You can't quite see the needle, but you can see the thread as it passes around the front of the bobbin case. So I'm going to do that now. And if you keep looking, you'll see a pink thread pass around the front of the bobbin case right there. Okay. You can see that now it has completely got the blue thread, or your fish, that you can then pull your fish out of the ocean. Once you've got that loop and it looks like this, it's a bit hard to see, once it looks like this, grab the loop with your 2 fingers and pull that thread out. At this point, you have now successfully threaded the top part and the bottom part of your sewing machine. So that brings us to the end of today's video on learning how to thread your sewing machine. Hopefully that wasn't too complicated for you. A few key pieces of advice would be to always remember to turn your hand wheel towards you. This alleviates a lot of problems. The second thing that I would recommend to you would be to practice doing this over and over and over again. If you are in my class, I would generally ask you, once you've learned how to thread it once, to go and rethread your sewing machine at least 5 more times. I know that that might seem like a lot to begin with in class, is to rethread it 5 more times, but it's about forming muscle memory and making sure that that information that we've learned is being repeated so that it makes it easier for the next time we come to class. A lot of the time when my students are sewing, and if you are sitting in my class right now, you will experience this where you are sewing and something just happens and the machine starts to sound funny when you are sewing, and I will ask you, is your machine threaded properly? You've probably already threaded your machine and you've been successfully sewing up until that point, and you'll be like, yes, I have threaded my machine properly. But what sometimes happens is it becomes unthreaded in one way, shape or form. And generally, when it becomes unthreaded, it's coming out of those tension discs that we talked about. And it starts to get all tangled up in the underside of your work. And it can get jammed inside your machine. The way to solve that problem is to unthread your machine, rethread it, and try again. I will come and ask you, have you rethreaded your machine? And if you haven't, give that a go and then ask for help again. Okay, my job is to teach you how to problem solve, and that is one way that you can display your problem solving skills to me, is by trying to fix that problem first, and then if you're really struggling, to ask a buddy next to you, and then to ask me again. But yeah, that is the few key points that you could take away from this, is make sure that you're always turning that hand wheel towards you. If you ever experience an issue when you are sewing, just double check your threading on your sewing machine to make sure that you have threaded it correct, and to make sure that the machine hasn't become unthreaded when you've been sewing. A key quick thing that you can do to make sure that you're going to have a successful sewing time is, after you've threaded your machine, take a look at your machine to see if the top part of your machine looks like it's making a capital letter N. When the top part of the machine is threaded correctly, it actually makes a capital letter N. As it's passing through the thread guides, it makes that capital letter N. Every time I go to sew, I quickly just glance my eyes up to the top to make sure that my top thread is threaded through the machine following those series of thread guides, and it makes a capital N. It's a really quick step that you can do when you are sewing, is just quickly glance up at the top, especially when you're beginning, and just make sure it's making a capital letter N. It takes a split second to look up to the top of your machine and quickly see if it is making a capital letter N. If it is, you're going to have a successful time. If it isn't, just rethread it. It's really that simple. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. Hopefully it's been insightful and you've taken away some key points from it. The next video that we are going to cover, we are going to learn how to sew a straight line following a template.